So your book talks about conventional film and x-rays and how you handle that when it comes to infection control. So typically your conventional x-rays or analog x-rays come just like this. This is conventional x-ray or film. Your book talks about a barrier. They also make film, which also comes already with the barrier on top on it. So you could do one of two things. If you get regular film, it does not have a barrier on. You can purchase a separate barrier if you want to. Oftentimes, most offices don't even bother with it. Basically, the barrier in this case is meant to protect more so the film uh, rather than anything else in this case. Uh, you're sticking it in the mouth, so there's saliva that you're dealing with. So sometimes that saliva can get inside the film packet. It happens very rarely, but that's kind of the purpose of that barrier that's on there. So typically what you'll do is when you are taking conventional x-rays, and this will also be true when you're taking your phosphor plates or your PSP, whatever it's being referred to as, is you'll get a cup. And with this cup, basically what you'll do is once you take the x-ray, whether you're taking it with the barrier on, once you take the x-ray, you take it out of the patient's mouth, you're sticking it inside the cup. Grab your next x-ray, take the x-ray, pull it out of the patient's mouth, stick it in your cup. What that allows you to do is when you're done and ready to process your x-rays, is you can go ahead and remove your gloves. You can alcohol hand rub or hand wash. You can then grab the cup with bare hands because, again, the only thing that was touched was saliva as you were putting the film into the cup is just the inside of the cup. You're grabbing and handling it from the outside. You would then take the cup and then transport it to the dark room to get your films processed. That's going to be a separate thing. We actually have a little different setup here in the school to where we actually use a daylight loader so that we don't have to have an actual dark room. And most offices anymore, especially newer offices, don't even have a dark room that they've created. So probably nothing you'll ever see within your careers, thankfully. The next one is your phosphor plate. And your phosphor plate looks very similar to your conventional x-ray or film or your analog, whatever it's being referred to by your docs or within your office. Well, they also make barriers for this, and this is something that you definitely have to make sure that you are putting a barrier on, because these phosphor plates actually do get reused. So how these work is you take the image and then you place it into, again, bringing your trusty cup back, you place it into the cup. So just like conventional film, it's one x-ray per tooth or however many x-rays you're taking. If you're taking an FMS, then you have 18 of these phosphor plates, just like you would have 18 of your conventional or analog film, okay? So these do need to make sure that they do have a barrier on. Your x-ray films are disposable. So basically, once you open up this packet and you run the film through the processor, everything gets thrown away. The foil gets disposed of properly. We do not throw the foil that's in here away. We actually turn it into a company. So you want to make sure that you're not throwing everything away. Take the foil out, put it in a separate container, and then everything else on the film packet can be disposed of. Once you take your x-rays, these do not run through a processor. There's no chemicals involved with these. Basically what you're doing is you're inserting them into a machine that it's reading the image, and then once the image is captured, you can erase these plates and then reuse them and reuse them and reuse them, okay? So this is where a barrier for these is going to be very, very important, because unlike the regular film, which gets disposed of, these do not. And these, again, you do have to be careful. They are very delicate So if you're taking your Cavi wipe or whatever your disinfectant is that you're using and you try to wipe these, it's going to ruin these. So you got to make sure that you put a barrier on every single time. And the barriers for these look, again, very similar to how the x-rays look that have the clear barrier on. Very similar. It has the little notch here. I don't know if you can really see that little notch that's there. Which allows you to very easily open up the film. Well, with this, basically what you're doing is there's an opening here at the top. You then take your phosphor plate and you stick it inside the barrier. Then what you do is there is adhesive on here. You pull this off. And you make sure that this is sealed appropriately, okay? Because again, the goal of this is to make sure no moisture or no saliva gets in there. And you're going to do the same thing. You bring your cup here. You then take your x-ray, take it out of the mouth, stick it in the cup, and you do that for however many x-rays you have. Again, once you're done, you remove your glove. You grab your cup, ungloved, or with clean gloves, either one, and you take it to your machine to be processed and have it ready to go. So that's how it's going to work when you get to your phosphor plates and your film. When it comes to your digital sensors, basically those are going to get covered with the barrier. Once they're done and you're done, because you use one sensor for every x-ray that you're doing versus your film or your phosphor plate where you're using one for each x-ray that you're taking. For your sensor, your digital sensor now, you're only using one sensor for all your x-rays. The image gets captured, you move on to the next. So with that, once you're done with the digital sensor, you remove the plastic barrier from it. And those sensors, you can basically wipe them down with your disinfectant wipe. It's actually recommended that, even though you did have a barrier on, that you just get in the habit of wiping it down because you just never know when a little tear can be in the plastic or the barrier that could prevent or can allow, I should say, saliva to get in there.